So the song says, I don't know if we can say same of the current crop of leaders that we have. I don't even know if, for those of us seated in studio, would look back into the future, no, look forward into the future and ask ourselves that simple question. Will the young ones that come after us, will they say the same things about us? Or they probably would say, we've been so unfair to them and we're the reason why they're going through these problems. This morning, my guest is Dr. Yaw Perbi, who is Global CEO of the HUD Group. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Winston.
I hope you're doing very well.
I wish I could say that. In most physically, yes, but it's been an emotionally difficult time.
I can understand. I'm going to get to, but let me just, because I know you like this song, and I know it would bring lots of memories to you. But I asked that critical question, whether we can say same of the leaders we have today, whether we can look at them and say, you have done very well for us, and even ask ourselves whether the younger ones can say same about us.
Well, which is why we're having this discussion, Winston, which is why I'm here in the studio. Today is my daughter's birthday. I actually decided to come with her.
Sure.
8-year-old daughter. And I would like posterity to remember that when things were not going right, some of us stood up and shouted. And not just in writing and in speaking, but even picketing and getting on the streets. Throughout history, that's what people have done when things have not gone right. And I think as a people, we need to be clear-minded enough to say, "Enkoye, things are not the way they should be." In this whole scenario, I've heard you talking a lot about this domestic debt exchange. A lot of people talk about pensioners, and it's true. It is a valid conversation. I mean, there's one professor, who's been lamenting to me because almost all his pensions are in bonds. A 92-year-old guy who came to, so that's true. But even more importantly, are the young people today and going forward.
Yeah.
Because if there's a bad taste in their mouths regarding savings and investments, we're in trouble. If you remember with the early days of the revolution and all of that, it changed the culture. For a long time, we're not entrepreneurial. It wasn't rewarding. It's like, why would you have a house and have 2 toilets? Because somebody's just coming to, kill you for that. It affected our entrepreneurs for years. It's taking a lot to come out of that. And in the same way, if nothing drastic is done for this generation to realize that what is happening in Ghana right now is totally abnormal, that we should not set our affections and make our decisions and set laws based on an abnormal situation, it will affect us deeply. You heard of the 5 monkeys experiment? A guy puts 5 monkeys into a cage, puts a ladder there with bananas on top. Every time one monkey tries to go for the bananas, what happens? He sprays for 5 minutes ice cold water on them. All of them are punished for that guy's attempt.
Yeah.
What happens? The next time another tries, same thing. Then he puts the hose away and just begins to watch the people, the monkeys. A third guy attempts, what do you think they do? They all start beating the guy saying, don't go there, don't go there. Then he does something very interesting. He takes one monkey out and brings in a new guy who has no connection with this experiment, has not experienced any of this. He tries to climb the ladder for the bananas. What happens? They all come and beat him up. So he learns that you shouldn't go for the bananas, though they are there. Then he takes out another one of the oldies and brings a new one who has no idea what has gone on so far. And before this new one attempts, the old one who had never experienced the ice water, all he experienced was that if you try to get this thing, you'll be beaten. He also joins them in beating this guy and said, don't get there. That's exactly what's going to happen. As soon as someone says, let's put our money in the bank. Oh, let's put our money in investments. Hey, are you serious? With Jimmy and Honkai. It even gets into a genes. It becomes part of a genogram. I am very worried.
But can you fault them? You can't fault them, can you?
Fault who?
I mean, for these persons who probably tell you, don't go in there because...
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because they've experienced it.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. That's my concern. That's my concern. Winston, I got to medical school. I'm class of 2004, and we finished 2005. I go to medical school and realized you can become a poor doctor in this country. And I said, oh, This is not right. What is the sense in picking the smartest people, putting them in medical school, and people in this country? We sat here when a neurosurgeon, Mustafa, died a pauper. Neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
The irony, neurosurgeon. And so some of us started writing articles and reading around and said, look, being an excellent surgeon is not enough. Let's learn about money. Money is everybody's business. Let's learn about stocks. Let's learn about bonds. Let's learn about, futures, all these things. Winston, you believe it or not, I was in medical school and taking classes at the Ghana Stock Exchange. I mean, the current deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana was one of my teachers.
Okay.
She used to be so fascinated, like, what is a medical student doing here? But I said, money is everybody's business. It became a revolution. We had what we call Medics Investment Club. About 20 of us who every month will meet and not talk about medicine, pharmacology, or anatomy, or pathophysiology, but investments. Where should we put our money this week? And then it became a thing, and other people wanted to join. But by definition of investment club, you can't have more than 20 or so people, then it becomes something else. And so we started this, collective investment scheme we called Mutual Medics. At the peak of it, there were about 300 of us in this thing. Every week or every other week, people put their monies together. Started with CDH managing it, and then later on we moved it to Databank. Every week. Some nurses joined us, the nursing training college, and then some people started investment clubs there. One of my friends, I'm sure you've had him here before, Paul Mante, who's
Yes.
the EDC.
Yes.
Paul and I
Mante.
used to travel across the country, starting investment clubs, Prempeh College, here and there, telling people this is the way to make every country that has developed had a savings and investment culture. Let's do this for Mother Ghana. Let's do this. Our own finance minister
Ken Oforiatta
was very enthusiastic, so excited about what was happening. That's when I met him for the first time. He even, invested in some books we were producing. I wrote 3 books: Financial Wisdom through Investment Clubs, to give people a template, a roadmap, and then Financial Wisdom Nuggets. He gave us some money to complete the project. I think we returned the money like 3 months or so. He was at the book launch and everything. And that's how come, for me, I call him Uncle Ken. So for me, what is happening right now, I'm telling you, I'm having cognitive dissonance. I'm like, I cannot marry the Uncle Ken I know with what is happening. The irony is that this should happen under anybody, not under his watch. It is a
But it's happened under his watch.
It is a very strange thing I'm trying to understand.
You still haven't understood it?
I still haven't understood
Have you spoken with him?
I have. He's asked me to come home. Last week I tried very much to get home, but it's a very difficult time, called into emergency meetings and things like that. And so it's hard to nail a time and honor the time. But I will not give up, because I'm trying to understand.
When you look back, you have any regrets? Do you?
You know something?
Tell me.
I am tempted. Let me put it this way. Part of the reason I came here was to let the several tens of thousands of people who have invested to know that this is not a pyramid scheme. This is not, you know what I mean? They did the right thing. And I'm trying to convince myself I did the right thing. I did not lead them to go and throw themselves over a cliff. We did the right thing, but our leaders have not done the right thing by us. And they need to be called out on it. And you see, yes, we are in a fire that needs to be quenched. There's no point right now, is it NDC or is it MPP? For me, we need to quench the fire, but we need to have a national conversation. How did we get here?
That's a conversation we must have. And just calm down. I mean, I can understand how you would feel at this point, because you've led a lot of people into believing that investment was key. And all of us, growing up, I was having a conversation with Raymond at the time. In the university, you get all these things about the need to invest. Start with 50,000
Yes.
and everything. You're told about the EPAC story.
That's right.
And how it's, a group of workers brought their monies together. Today is big. Imagine if you put 50,000 in 10 years. How much? Well, 50,000 then, not today.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, not today's 50,000.
That's just 5 Ghana cedis.
Not just 5 Ghana cedis, yes. In those days.
And you're sacrificing student loans,
Yes.
some entertainment, you don't go, we're squeezing ourselves to do this. And now those who are just blowing their money are laughing at us. It's like we should have chopped the money.
Exactly. Because you're looking back and you're saying, well, I didn't have all these fun.
Yeah.
I was expecting that by now I would be having fun. And here you watch your money reduced to nothing. You've asked the question, we must hold our leaders accountable.
We must.
you've asked the question, how did we get here? And how are the very people who led us here sitting mostly unconcerned? How did we get here?
So you see, I think as a people, we take leadership for granted. Leadership, and I've been in your studio to talk about this before,
Sure.
when we do the Live to Lead program, etc. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything. You play the clip about Zimbabwe. How did Zimbabwe dip? Leadership. How come we're looking at Zimbabwe as an example today? Leadership. So everything does rise and fall on leadership. And leadership is not just caught. There's a part of it that is caught. It must also be intentionally taught. And I feel that many of our leaders have no clue. It's like we've given them this 18-wheeler to drive, and they have no idea how to drive. Otherwise, why are we in the ditch that we are in? So there's a competence. There are three main C's when it comes to leadership. There's a competence bit. And I dare say that some of our leaders are not competent. The other part is character, which is a whole value system, etc. Because you see, somebody may be competent, but if they are corrupt, for example, it's not going to get you anywhere. You don't want I asked somebody, do you want an honest surgeon or a skillful surgeon? You don't want to have to choose between an honest surgeon and a skillful surgeon. He may be a skillful surgeon, but what if after his surgery you realize that you didn't even need the surgery? Warren Buffett, he says he hires for three things. He hires for integrity as the first thing. The next thing he hires for is that you are smart, intelligence, and that you have drive, initiative. He says he hires for integrity as number one, because if you don't have the number one, the person will kill you with the other two.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we have a case where we don't have dumb people in government.
So what's the
Smart,
problem
you have
then?
smart people. But if you have smart people who don't have integrity, they will kill us.
Is that a problem?
I think it is. Have you read the Auditor General's report?
I have. I've analyzed it here. I've added, the infractions together is more than 2 billion irregularities.
And we are going to ask for three. Listen, let's stop kidding ourselves. So it's character, it's competence, character. The third one is care or compassion. And that's one other component that is really lacking. Because many people are saying, my fellow investors are saying, we don't even, it doesn't even look like they care. One person came to me, very angry about a meeting they went for, with people from finance, and the finance minister was chewing peanuts or something. The guy was so mad. He was like, it doesn't seem like you're gonna say, where's the care? Where's the compassion? I haven't had a single person even apologize for anything. Not for IMF, which if you're a person of integrity, you say we are not going to IMF, and then you change your mind. You've not kept your word. You don't have integrity. That's what integrity is, honoring your word.
So
If you haven't kept your word,
So you're suggesting that the moment we decided to go to the IMF, and when the finance minister said we're not going to the IMF, automatically he lost that integrity.
of course. And he's not perfect, and I'm not perfect. None of us is, but that is why we seek to keep our word. But for any reason we are not able to keep our word, we still honor our word by acknowledging that this is what I said, this is what is happening, please forgive me, and let us change course. That is the way to go. I haven't heard anything like that. What is this? What is this? So where's the competence? Where is the character? And where is the care or compassion?
They've told you, but for happenings of COVID-19 and Russia, Ukraine, you probably wouldn't have been here. It's not their fault, they tell you.
There's a truth in it. And we are not fools. We are not being intransigent here. You know something? For about 12 years, we lived in Canada. I was in Canada last year and realized, my goodness, prices are so high. I looked at gas prices and all of that. Throughout the world, recently, last week, there was a protest in London. There are global economic realities. Nobody is going to fault us for that. And that is part of us as a people saying, oh, this is what has happened, and yekose. But when you realize how much money has come in for COVID, that did not go to COVID. When you realize people giving themselves $150,000 and 50,000 Ghana cedis for what do they call it? Risk allowance and Ministry of Finance information. When you realize all these gaps in the Auditor General's report, it makes it. You know something I feel? I feel like we are being asked to sacrifice our money so that people misuse it. That's how I feel. You may say that, oh, we need the money, but where is the money going to? Why is my money going to fuel free gas for people? Where is the austerity? You see, that's the thing. Where's the timber
You don't see that in
Well,
leadership?
do you see austerity?
Tell me.
Who's been asked to reduce their staff? Do we need all these deputy ministers? Do we need about 5 different ministries for just transportation, rail, and like you think about it? And that is the leadership. With all due respect, our president is not showing leadership. Leadership should at this moment say, you know what, people, we are in a crisis. We are even coming for your money. This is not like government lent us the money and this is our money we saved. We are even coming for your money, which we shouldn't do. Fathers shouldn't eat their children's food. Fathers shouldn't eat their children's food, but the fathers have eaten grapes and the children's teeth are set in edge, like Ezekiel says. You know, so because of this is what we are doing as adults. I'm asking that I'm making my government a third of the people. Hey, a third of ministers. Imagine. Have you heard anything about ex gratia?
No,
Are they going to pay ex gratia?
I'm
watching to see.
It's a provision, constitutional provision.
I am watching to see. Ex gratia should be sent to 2038, where my last bond ends. My 70% of our bonds were in our portfolio for mutual medics were in bonds, and this thing is straight all the way to 2038. We should pay ex gratias in 2038.
My guest this morning is Dr. Yaw Perbi, who's Global CEO of the HUD Group. We're having a conversation about Ghana. He's been talking about, the kind of leadership that we have and the need for leaders to take responsibility. Don't just sit down and, throw your arms in despair and say, we can't do anything. So, Dr. Perbi, you've talked about the ex gratia bit. You've talked about, reducing the size of government. Let's come to the finance minister, for instance. One person who became your mentor at the time.
I don't want to say became. Who is
your mentor?
Yes.
So when you look at him, the person you knew,
yes,
and what you're seeing today, how do you feel?
I am confused because I can't reconcile my Uncle Ken with what I'm seeing. I'm confused. It's become an enigma. And so confusion is one, wonder is another. So I'm wondering, I'm puzzled, what's going on? But number 3, I'm scared.
Why? Because
many of us have been warned never to get into politics, that when you get there, you will change. And I am wondering, has he changed? Let me tell you something, Winston.
Do.
I know more people by first names in this government than I've known ever in any other government. And so it scares me that we are seeing our own Kojo Oponkroma is sitting here. Is he part of the solution or part of the mess?
Tell me.
You tell me. And makes me worried for you because you're holding people accountable today. But if you became finance minister or information minister, what will happen to you? So that's the scary bit. Is there something in the water in the Jubilee House? What is it about politics? Is there something? It is scary. But one thing for sure, well, those of us who are scared to get into politics because we might fail the people, I think we all should, because we can't do any worse than this.
You're encouraging people to get into it.
Did you hear President Mahama say that at Chatham House? That, those of us who have been sitting on the fence, thinking that we are not, politically colored, we are not left and right. Have you seen what is happening? If you're not involved, and you didn't hear his alert? Yeah. But the thing is this: should we all get into politics just because we can go and kick a cat? How do you build a society like that? Who is producing the meat for us to get our cut? There's got to be meat production for us to get our cut. If everybody's going into cut, very soon we'll have nothing left. We'll have to cut our tongues to eat. Hey. And if you're playing Efremamu's music, Efremamu warned us about these things. Yedara Sasini. He's talked about Kotunkrani. He talked about corruption. He talked about greed and selfishness. That's the chorus. So will our nation succeed or always suffer from greed? On what we do today depends on future need, or depends on our future way. Do you know when he wrote that song?
Tell me.
1929. Even before we became Ghana.
Yeah.
It tells us that the signs were there. He could tell. 1929 is when he wrote Yenara Assassin. He must be shifted in his grave. My grandfather, his mentee, must be shifted in his grave. And it's not as if we don't have the solutions. We know what the solutions are. We don't have the balls to implement them.
What are the solutions?
So many brilliant people in this country. I mean, it's that's what tells you that it's the will, which is a character thing, not there, or the competence thing, or just the compassion. I don't care, because we have it. You know something? You guys can go to GhanaCompact.com, I think. All the major policy think tanks in this country, Imani, CDD, all of them, plus a number of CSOs and ISET, KY Amwako's ISET, have come together to put something together called the Ghana Compact, the Ghana we want. There are 3 binding constraints, 6 thematic areas, touching education, work for young people, gender issue, climate, everything we need, and 3 binding constraints. The 3 binding constraints, number 1, the Constitution. We need to thank God for the Constitution, how far it's come. It's 30 years old. It takes leadership to say that there are certain things that are not working for us, like the separation of powers. We've got to mend those things. It takes leadership. That's what I'm saying. That's what I've come here to say, that we don't have leadership. We have managers, but even then, mismanagers. But leadership and management are not the same. A manager can keep a car going. It takes a leader to change the course and say, no, we're going this direction, like Zimbabwe has done. Look at, you hear the guys like, this is so simple. This is how much food we need. This is how much land we have. This is how many square hectares will give us this much food. You can do it in a secondary school, can do that. But so what is it? So the 3 thematic areas, number 1, the aspects of the Constitution we need to be bold enough to change. We can't, it's like the law. The law was not made for man. Law was made for man, not man for the law. Sure. But we are living like, oh, no, it's the Constitution. No. Even the Bible, we are here disobeying things in the Bible. And we can't change our Constitution. Then we don't have leadership. It takes leadership to change that. So we need some constitutional reform. Those are the 3 binding constraints. I want to talk about the 6 thematic areas. Now, the second is we need a long-term policy direction. Policy direction, program implementation has been haphazard. This one comes to do 4 years. Second, say, oh no, let's do 3 years. This one, we the people, and that's why we have the National Development Planning Commission. Yeah. And they've been part of this process I'm talking about. So it's not as if it's been without government. Even the state, even the, Council of State has been part of this. We the people determine this is our dream. This is our roadmap for Ghana from now to 2050. And every political party gives us what their tactics are, what their programs are towards our KPIs as a people.
We tried a 40-year development plan.
Where is it?
It didn't work.
Why didn't it work? Because we are so partisan. It's not about Ghana. It's about my party colors and how to feed myself and my family and to make sure that my children's children have food to eat. I didn't think I'll be having this conversation during an NPP era. I didn't think so.
Why?
Because look at the crop of people we have. Look at the fine sounding words we hear. And those who are in line who want to take over and break the 8. Listen, I've told them, even that break the 8 thing tells me it's not the people you're thinking about. Who cares about breaking the 8? What you care about is, are we delivering for our people? It's so inward looking, breaking the 8. It's so inward looking. It tells you right away where their mind is. It's not about us. It's not about the people. So when the people have said this is what we want, then we look at whose manifesto best addresses where we want to get to. And then we decide whether we vote for you. And we will mark you based on that national strategic direction. But as it is, this one comes and let's do this. This one comes and let's do this. This one, like Fante Koyo. What is that? The third thematic area, it's finance, which is what we're talking about. Every budget has a budget deficit. And then it balloons in the election cycle. It's not rocket science. We it's not rocket science. If you have a budget deficit, what do? You either increase income or you reduce expenditure. Are we still getting free fuel? Yes. And I am getting a haircut, so you get free fuel. Nonsense. I'm getting a haircut so that you. What are you talking about? Some departments and agents have 3 deputies. 3 deputies.
Yes.
What are you talking about?
And it's very emotional in the studio here. This is the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. This morning, we're having a conversation with Dr. Yaw Perbi, who is Global CEO of the HUD Group. We're talking about Ghana. We're talking about all the investments. And for many of you who even right from your student days put in your money in these collective investment schemes with a view that you are suffering in the short term for a long-term gain. Unfortunately, you look back and say, where did we go wrong? At least you didn't go wrong. But the challenge had to do with those in whose hands you entrusted your trust. That is a conversation we're having this morning here on the Super Morning Show. Doc, let's continue with the conversation. And just become. I can understand when you look back 20 years and all that you've put in and what has become of the country that all of us would have loved to see in a better place. Today, right in front of us, right before our eyes, we can see the country going down. And unfortunately, the compassion with which you would expect the people who are leading to get it. Do I say the people who are leading or the people who are managing and maybe mismanaging? You don't find that happening. But in all of this, the question about trust arises. We saw people who, as part of the financial sector cleanup, had their funds converted into bonds, spread over a 5-year period. Unfortunately, these persons have had their monies also becoming part of the domestic debt exchange program. Last year, they were not paid. The question is, how do I trust the system in all that we're seeing? Is there anything like trust in this country?
Winston, obviously not. I think you know that's a rhetorical question. And that is part of my concern about going forward. Because, and I hope people realize that I'm largely talking as, not only as an investor, I'm largely talking also as somebody. I mean, I'm actually doing a doctorate in leadership. So I can see clearly where leadership lacks. We say in leadership that trust is the foundation of all leadership. Again, it goes back to the character component of the triad, right? Once trust is lost, all is lost. And it's very hard to rebuild trust. And so if I were consulting for the government, I'll tell them, put all your energy into rebuilding trust. And show it by your own repentance, your own restitution, and your own austerity. I saw somebody put on Facebook the other day that our president is traveling, and what a sad country it is that he's traveling commercial. And I said to the person, it depends on what country you are president over. If you think you deserve a private jet, let us see it in the kind of economy you are running. For me, don't even fly. You don't deserve to fly. Thank you. What's wrong with us? This morning, one of my colleagues in medical school sent me a message. He heard your introduction of it. He said, oh, this must be our story you're going to tell. And he said, go and speak for the millions of people who never get to come to Joy FM. Trust is broken. And trust is very hard to repair. But I hope the government finds a way to do that. And it's not just for this government. It will be for the next and the next and the next. And you and I know that the NDC is not a solution. It's not an NPP NDC thing. It's a leadership thing. And we're in a mess.
Just relax a little bit. I'll come back to you shortly. Dr. Yaw Perbi, who's Global CEO of the HUD Group. And we're going to continue with this conversation. Just calm down a little bit. We'll continue shortly. But imagine love in 3D. Experience love in all its awe and splendor as KBKB Music presents the Vitamilk Love Night. What have you done for that special someone this year? Express your love with a ticket to the ultimate romantic evening with Ghana's most romantic voice on the mic. Kwabena and Friends, live at the Vitamilk Love Night. It's on Saturday, the 11th of February 2023 at the National Theatre. Come rekindle your love and express it in the most special way as the king of vocals serenades you to the very best of love songs from his repertoire and more. Tickets to this exciting night of love and music are selling now for only 200 cedis single and 350 double at Joy FM Nalem, Accra Mall, and a home store, Pamwen Junction, Airport Shell, Koala, and Frankie's. You can also get it by visiting kbkbmusic.com or dial star 365 star 1114 hash. The Vitamilk Love Night with Kwabena and Friends, Saturday, 11th February 2023 at the National Theatre, 8 p.m. sharp. Come feel the beauty of love expressed in 3D and stand the chance to win tons of gifts, including an Dubai-Accra ticket for two, courtesy Prestige Rock, produced by Image Bureau, with support from Ebony Condoms, powered by Joy Entertainment, and proudly brought to you by Vitamilk. For enquiries, please call 0551 313134. But MTN wants you to know that there's good news for small to medium-scale business owners. With SME Plus, you get to manage all your operational costs in communication. Now, the service simply allows you to choose from affordable packages and enjoy talk time, SMS data, and business content all bundled in one subscription. The other exciting news is you get free on-net calls every Monday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Simply dial star 5060 hash to sign up today. WhatsApp or call 0244 308 111 for more information. And stay connected everywhere you go. Right, so this morning we still have Dr. Yaw Perbi, who is Global CEO of the HUD Group in studio. We're having a conversation. Yes, we're talking about the bonds, but we're also talking about Ghana. But Dr. Perbi, I mean, one thing I want us to talk about is the Ghanaian middle class. Every country is developed with its middle class. Every country has succeeded in reversing what you would term a symmetrical relationship using the middle class. Until recently, we didn't find the Ghanaian middle class playing that role. Even now, you don't hear them. The question is, why is the Ghanaian middle class silent? Don't they know the role they have to play in this democracy?
It's a good question. And if the Ghanaian middle class is silent, it's because we have a culture that does not honor honesty. Again, maybe it was prophetic that in our national anthem, we pledge fearless honesty. It may be a Ghanaian thing. The things I'm saying here, I'm going to get a lot of calls and people say, hey, now I can't say. And, meanwhile, people are saying these things. But in corners and in back spaces. And I want to encourage the Ghanaian middle class that if we don't come out and speak, if we don't come out and picket and hit the street, whatever we need to do, we are the ones going to be shrunk. Because as you can tell, from what is happening, there's going to be an uber-rich segment of the economy and an uber-poor, thinning out those of us in the middle. Look, and part of the temptation is to think, I've got it good for me. So, electricity is not working. Oh, just get a generator. Oh, water is not flowing. Oh, I got my poly tank or I've sunk a borehole. But it can't continue that way. Look, I've been a UN peacekeeper. I almost died. 2 of my colleagues died in Cote d'Ivoire. Our colleagues in Congo were stoned by the local people. You know why? People went around telling them that, you see the Prado they are in, you see the V8, it's our money. Very soon, those boys who come around on the streets wanting to clean up, they are the ones who are going to charge on us. So we had better speak out and better make sure that there's, this morning I told him my little girl's birthday. I went with her to Alisa Hotel just to get her some breakfast. The head of pastries there is a lady we found at Papaye serving at the table. We saw her, we realized that this girl has potential. My wife and I invested in her. She went to catering school, graduated. Today she's the head chef there. I'm just getting a call. A guy we got out of galamsey and drugs. I'm like, why are How much can we eat? And how much can we store? Let's come out. Let's speak. They heard the song you were playing. It gives me so many emotions because Ephraim Amu and my grandfather wrote songs like this. And that generation, it was all about Ghana first. Look, my grandfather, together with a son, and they started Afram Publications. Even when he was 90-something, he was going for board meetings. I don't even know whether he gets dividend. But those guys, they wrote. They sacrificed because they knew we were building a nation. Not individual family trusts, not to make our names great, but to make Ghana, the collective. And Uncle Ken likes to talk about this. Ghana has a manifest destiny. That's not what we're seeing. And the good book says a good name is better than riches. Guys, middle class, please, let's speak up. We are going to be the endangered species if we don't speak out.
I like that point. The fact that if we don't speak up, we'll be the endangered species. Very soon, the lower class, as you may want to call it, will begin to look for you because they felt you could have helped them.
Absolutely.
But then you kept quiet.
Absolutely.
We need to be wrapping up this. Of course, this is just the beginning of lots of conversations we would have to have, all aimed at changing the focus of this nation. But as we wrap it up, there's one thing I want us to look at again. How do we change the focus of this country? How do we make sure that we become that country that our ancestors envisaged?
Again, I know I have a leadership bias, but vision. Vision. What is this nation's vision? Look at what has happened to Dubai. Vision. Literally streams in the desert. Today everybody wants to go and do conferences in Dubai. Vision. Where is that big, bold vision that we are all working towards and prepared to sacrifice for? Is it Ghana Beyond Aid? What is it? What is it? You tell me. Because it is leadership responsibility to cast a clear, compelling vision and constantly remind people of that vision, constantly work towards that vision, constantly be seen to sacrificing for that vision. Where is that? Where is that Ghanaian dream that we want to become? Lee Kuan Yew, everybody talks about him. He said, look, in 30 years, everyone in Singapore will own property. 30 years, we'll move from third world to first world. Where is that? And that's what goes back to that planning again, where we know that this is the Ghana we want. All right? Look, it's not hard. You heard the Zimbabwean guy. This is the Ghana we want, 2050. Okay, so let's backtrack. What do we need to do in 2020 to see the Ghana we want? What do we need to do in 2025 to see the Ghana we want? These are the kind of leaders we want. What do we need to build those kind of leaders we want? How hard is that, Winston? Do you need to go to Oxford for this?
No.
Village wisdom.
Yes. Some say it's common sense.
So what is it? So that's what makes me makes me challenge the character of the leadership we have. Is it really about the people? Because it seems like the pre-independence and peri-independence generation really were rooting for this country and sacrificing for, in fact, the continent. But something's happened to that generation right after that. It seems like there's a lost generation. And then now it's our generation. I'm in my 40s. And I'm doing this. I have 7 children. I'm doing this, and I'm glad one of them is here. And I hope you remember, Ahoto, that on your birthday, your father came with you to the studio. And your father was upset about how the current leaders are running our country because you deserve better than this.
Is there
you
hope?
deserve better than this.
Is there hope?
It's a very good question. You know, last year when we were organizing the Live to Lead conference, I was amazed at how many CEOs, I'm talking about CEOs in banking, in media, etc., had given up hope on this country. And that scared me. Because as a leader, you are a purveyor of hope. As a leader, you can't afford not to have hope. And so part of what we did last year was to ask, And we had a number of people who said, including Uncle Ebo, who was in the studios this morning. Uncle Ebo says, God has a plan for this country. In fact, some of us used to go around saying Ghana is an acronym for God has a nation ahead. God has a nation ahead. And let me tell you something about God. And this country is God, whether you're Muslim, Christian, lots of. God has his purposes, and he will fulfill his purposes. We had better align with his purposes. God is giving our leaders a long rope, but it will not be forever. Because God's purposes for Ghana will happen, and we had better align with him and not stand in the way. If you are a leader in this country, and whether you are MDA, whether you are in the Jubilee House, whether you are in a hospital, make sure you are aligning with the manifest destiny that God has for this country, because otherwise he will get you out of the way.
Is there hope?
There is hope, as long as we keep the God in the Ghana.
Dr. Yaw Perbi, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to express myself and to speak for many, maybe 1 million plus Ghanaians who are feeling the pain and want someone to represent them.